A very good afternoon, everybody. Welcome this Thursday to St. Michael at the Northgate Church, and the second in our series, looking at phrases from the Bible that perhaps would have stopped the first listeners in their tracks, or as they were sitting round the campfire, would have caused a sharp intake of breath. Last week, we looked at the first question which God asks, which is, "Where are you?" Today, we're looking at the first question that humanity asks, and it comes in Genesis chapter 4, and it's in the story of Cain and Abel. The situation is this: Cain and Abel have both offered sacrifices to God, and Cain's is not accepted and Abel's is. It's not quite clear why, but it seems as if Abel was giving the first fruits, so what he most valued. And perhaps Cain was not, but we're not quite sure. And it's one of those moments where the listeners around the campfire would not have been quite sure why one was accepted and why not. Cain does not then think, well, how can I do better next time? What can I learn from this experience? Instead, he gets angry and he gets envious. And envy can so easily lead to jealousy, and jealousy can so lead to something worse. Because when we're envious of someone, well, we're envious of what they have or what they've achieved. But when we're jealous of them as a person, there's perhaps part of us that would find it easier if they were not here. And God knows what's going on and says to Cain, "Why are you angry?" And then says, "Be careful, sin is crouching at the door." But Cain takes no notice of that, and he goes, "Am I my brother's keeper?" That's the first question humanity asks. Am I my brother's keeper? First question God asks is, where are you? First question humanity asks is, am I my brother's keeper? And perhaps that's very striking. That is the first question, because of course tied up in that question is really the whole of human history. Am I my brother's keeper? And the storyteller, the narrator, then pauses, leaves it open, and there is no direct answer. And perhaps those listening would have been thinking, well, it's blindingly obvious, Cain, of course you are your brother's keeper. Or perhaps as the storyteller looked round the circle, with his eyes, he or she was saying, how would you react to that? How would you answer that? Are you your sister's keeper? Are you your brother's keeper? We are all entwined. We are all joined together as humanity. We are all linked. And Cain has broken that link. Am I my brother's keeper? He has lied. When God says, "Where is your brother?" Cain says, "I don't know." And so he already has shown that he knows that what he has done is wrong. And he distracts from that by asking the question, am I my brother's keeper? In the New Testament, this is perhaps picked up when Jesus tells the story of the Good Samaritan in answer to the question, who is my neighbour? And for all of us, who is my brother, who is my sister, and do I have responsibility for them? And the answer is clearly yes. And God says to Cain, in answer to the question, am I my brother's keeper? God says simply, what have you done? And there's an element there of not only what have you done in killing your brother, but what have you done in even feeling this question needs to be asked? So in our time of crisis, in our time of the spread of the virus, in our time of many people in need, that question still echoes. Am I my brother's keeper? Am I my sister's keeper? What does it mean to look out for them, to look after them? It is the first question that man or woman asks in the Bible. And perhaps this week, as we look towards Holy Week and Easter next week, we can be mindful of that in our own lives and in the way that countries treat each other and society looks after itself and looks after others. Are we really our brother's keeper? And what does that need to look like? Thank you so much for listening. Next Thursday at 5:30, there'll be another phrase from the Bible, that perhaps might have stopped the early listeners in their tracks. Also, as next week is Holy Week, we'll be continuing our similar pattern of 5:30 slots, but also there'll be some other streaming going in as well. So do keep an eye on our website, and we'll try and keep you informed in these sessions. Thank you so much for listening today, and God bless you. Thank you.